Welcome to The Explainer. I'm so glad you're joining us today because, well, we're looking at a totally fascinating piece of writing. It details what is absolutely the greatest secret identity in all of history. When we think of secret identities, we usually picture superheroes, right? Popping on some glasses or hiding a cape under their everyday clothes just to blend in. But the source text we're analyzing today, titled The Artisan King, Divinity Clad in Humble Humanity, it outlines a historical undercover mission that is literally way more incredible than any comic book. It's the story of how the King of Heaven actually chose to live as a humble carpenter. We're going to break down exactly what this text says about his life, his work, and what it all means for us today. But before we reveal all the details of this undercover mission, I've got a very serious question for you. Do you ever get tired of doing your daily chores or your homework? I mean, if you're 10 years old, or honestly, if you're any age at all, chances are you complain every now and then when it's time to take out the trash, sweep the floor, or sit down and figure out a really tough math problem. It's totally normal to wish we could just skip the hard work and get straight to the fun stuff. Hold on to that feeling, because how you view your chores is about to completely change once we look at how the central figure of our text viewed his. Part 1. The Undercover King. Okay, let's dive into this. The text paints a picture of a heavenly ruler stepping down from the highest imaginable position, right into the most basic, everyday human existence. It outlines this massive sacrifice. As commander of the heavenly courts, he wore a royal robe, a kingly crown, and had ultimate authority and wealth. But to help the human family, he literally laid all of that aside. He became a humble artisan, wearing the simple peasant garments his parents provided. The text specifically points out that he clothed his divinity with humanity, stepping down from a royal throne to become poor and totally hiding his incredible glory under the guise of an ordinary human. Part 2, a humble peasant life. Let's try to imagine what the actual everyday environment of this undercover king looked like. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the incredible contrast between what people actually saw and what was really happening. According to the text, his daily reality included living in a simple peasant home and walking rough, steep dirt paths. To the rest of the world, he was unrecognized and neglected. But, and here is the fascinating twist, human eyes couldn't see them, but he had a royal guard. The text states that invisible, masculine angel attendants were with him every single step of the way. He held his authority from the highest power, the sovereign of heaven, and these invisible attendants were right there with him, even as he walked those rough dirt paths. Part 3. Honest labor is honorable. And this brings us to a pretty huge question. Why? Why would the sovereign of heaven, the Lord of the whole earth, choose to be a carpenter? I mean, he could have chosen to live among the rich, the powerful, the kings, and scholars. He could have just snapped his fingers and had everything done for him, right? Why spend years sweating and working with wood at a carpenter's bench? Well, the text gives us a very specific and inspiring reason. To understand it, we need to look at an important word used in the reading, consecrating. Consecrating is the act of making something holy, special, or dedicated to a higher purpose. The source states that his work had to begin by consecrating the humble trade of the craftsmen who have toiled for their daily bread. By taking up a trade and working hard to earn his daily living, he was making everyday work special. He was taking the ordinary, tiring jobs of the world and dedicating them to a higher purpose. The reading points out that if he had only lived among the rich and powerful, all the everyday workers of the world would have been deprived of the inspiration they were meant to have. So the crucial point is perfectly captured in this quote from our source. He learned the trade of a carpenter that he might stamp all honest labor as honorable and ennobling to all who work with an eye single to the glory of God. I mean, really think about that. The text argues that Christ was doing his Father's business just as much when he was measuring and sawing wood at a dusty carpenter's bench as he was when he was later performing grand miracles for thousands of people. He proved that hard, honest work is honorable. It doesn't matter if you're a king or a carpenter, if you are working to honor God, your work is noble and it's important. Part 4, your daily royal chores. Now let's bring this narrative right back into your living room. We started out talking about the things you might complain about. Doing the dishes, cleaning your room, finishing that math homework. How does this grand story of the commander of the heavenly courts stepping down to become a carpenter actually apply to you and your daily tasks today? Well, if the king of the universe didn't think sweeping up sawdust was beneath him, it kind of changes how we should view our own responsibilities, doesn't it? Our source gives us a clear roadmap for how young learners can follow this incredible life example. Step 1, practice humble obedience. Just as he learned obedience, so can we. Step 2, tackle those chores and that schoolwork without complaining. Remember, if he could walk rough paths and work a hard trade without demanding a royal title, we can definitely push through our spelling words. And step 3, this is the key. Work with an eye single to the glory of God. The text explains that you have actually been given a probation period right now to form your character. Every time you obey, every time you do your homework diligently, you are building a character fit for the heavenly mansions he is preparing. Your daily obedience is literally royal training. Which brings us to our final thought. We've explored how our source describes the ultimate undercover mission, a heavenly commander who laid aside his crown to show us that honest, humble, hard work is truly honorable. So I want to leave you with this question. Next time you pick up a broom to sweep the kitchen or grab a pencil to finish your homework, will you remember the Carpenter King? Remember that you aren't just doing some boring chore. You're actually practicing the exact same noble, honorable work that the King of Heaven did himself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time.